I hold something more valuable than diamonds, more valuable than any possession that you'll ever own, a book. For you all, it is something to flip, but for me, they're everything. My friends, my companions, everything. They are the creatures who make me happy, take away all my pain. It was during this specific phase where my journey with books underwent a massive evolution. Books ceased to be just a source of entertainment. They transformed into a sanctuary. They became a safe haven. Let me take you back where this transformation actually occurred. I used to absolutely hate reading. If you had told a younger version of me that I would one day stand on the stage to celebrate the power of books, I would have laughed out loud. To me, when I was young, books weren't treasures, they were punishments, they were heavy. I sat staring at a page. My mind did everything it can do to escape. I count how many pages were left like a prisoner counting down days to release. I looked at people who read for pleasure as if they belonged to a completely different species. I couldn't comprehend how anyone could willingly choose to stare at tiny black ink marks of a page. One day, I picked up a book out of full boredom. Again, I was looking at a page of pictures, counting how many pages were left, but that didn't help. I was left with no choice but to read. By completing the whole book, I found out I judged the people who read. I found out that I was even a story awaiting to write. Then came the golden age, the transition of being read by everyone to reading for myself. I remember the first time. The stories felt less like a book but more like a mirror. Suddenly, I wasn't just a kid sitting in a bedroom. I was a detective in London, a wizard in a hidden school, or a traveler from a distant galaxy. This was the spark, the realization that books are ultimate empathy machines, allowing us to live 1,000 lives before even we finish our high school. As children, our physical boundaries are completely defined by the adults around us. We are told when to wake up, what to eat, where to sit, and when to sleep. But the moment a book is open to us, those walls completely evaporate. Suddenly, we are flying over rooftops, talking to mythical creatures in deep forests, solving mysteries in forbidden attics, and sailing across uncharted oceans. I had reading sessions in my school. Whenever they suggested me a book, I quickly rushed to the library, took the book they specifically said. When I finally leaned into novels, I did something truly miraculous. I stepped entirely out of my own skin. For a few hundred pages, I looked at the world through the eyes of someone of a different gender, different race, different century, or vastly different social class. I felt their heartbreaks, shared their victories, grieved their losses. Books has taught me to understand the complex suffering. Fiction stretched the boundaries of my heart. If fiction expanded my heart, non-fiction is what sharpened my intellect. As my habitat grew, my appetite expanded into history, philosophy, science, and biography. I realized that reading non-fiction is essentially pulling up a chair to a private meeting with the greatest minds who have ever lived. My reading taste evolved from simple adventures to complex narratives. I fell deeply into genres that challenged my perspective. Fantasy epics where flawed characters had to carry heavy burdens, historical figures who had taken the resilience of human spirit during the dark ages, and the poetry that put precise words to feelings that I hadn't yet how to name. Books became my mentors. A brilliant mind can spend 20, 30, or 40 years researching a topic, failing, learning, and gathering hard won wisdom. And then they distill all that knowledge into a few hundred pages. And you and I, We can buy that lifetime knowledge in a price of a single lunch and consume it in a weekend. It is the greatest bargain in human history. I vividly remember thereof reading under bed covers with a fading flashlight long after the house had gone completely silent. I wasn't just staying up late, I was escaping. I was seeking out voices that understood me better than the person who sits next to me in school. Books serves as my first imagination engines. They do something beautiful. They teach me that the world is infinitely larger than the four walls of our bedrooms. They introduce the foundational concept of right and wrong, bravery and cowardice, kindness and cruelty. When a child reads about a hero standing against a dragon, that child is learning that dragons exist. That child is learning that dragons can be defeated. This early stage of my journey has stayed with me for life. The world is full of unseen possibilities. If you had an imagine a place, a solution, or a better future in your mind, you have already taken the first step towards making it real. As I grew, my world didn't just expand, it multiplied. George R.R. Martin once said, "A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies." This was the era of voracious consumption. I devoured books like meals, not realizing that even as I ate the stories, they were quietly building up the architecture of my own mind. When a major career setback left me questioning my worth, it wasn't a motivational speech that pulled me back. It was reading the private journals of historical figures who had walked through the valley of loss before me, gave me a map to navigate my own sorrow. When every great human history begins with a single step, but mine began with a profound sense of resentment. Today, I am going to let you in on a secret that might seem strange, where my child mind thinks to write. I started to realize that if these authors could build worlds, I could do it too. I began to write. I wrote on margins of my math homework. I wrote on back of receipts. I was crawling before I could walk, putting words together like mismatched Lego bricks. I found a way to step into another person's skin through a different lens. I began to read to connect the dots and write to connect them. I found out my own struggles weren't a dead end but a plot twist. I began to treat myself like a draft, messy, imperfect, but capable of being rewritten. Reading became a luxury I couldn't afford. Writing became a chore. I fell into a trap of perfectionism. I stopped writing because I was afraid I wasn't skilled enough. I stopped reading for pleasure because I was too busy for reading information. But every hero's journey has a descent into the underworld. For a lover of books, that doesn't usually happen when the world gets too loud. When the world broke, I didn't go to self-help manual. I went back to the old friends in myself. I realized that literature was the empathy machine. It allows us to step into another person's skin. When I read a specific influential book, I realized I wasn't the only one who felt this way. I picked up the pencil back, but it wasn't the yellow pencil of childhood. It was a tool forged in the fire of experience. I stopped trying to be literary and started trying to be honest. I learned that a word after word after word is power. I began to read to connect the dots and write to connect them. My journey with books has evolved an escape to a foundation. I realized that I wasn't just a reader of stories, but the architect of my own. Now, I want you to look at your life like a manuscript. Some of your chapters might have been written by your parents, your teachers, or your circumstances. But the pen is in your hand now. You don't have to write a masterpiece today. You just have to write the next sentence. You just have to turn the next page. Because the most beautiful part about the infinite spine of our life is the best chapter hasn't been written yet. It is being written right now. waiting for you to wake up tomorrow. Become pure version of that yellow pencil and begin. Because I know how easy it is to grow up hating books. I feel a profound responsibility to pass the torch to everyone I know. If we want children to love reading, we can't just simply command them while we sit on our smartphones. Really hated when I am being commanded. If we want children to love reading, we have to let them see us lost in a book. When you teach a child to love reading, you aren't just helping them to do better in school or improve their vocabulary. You're giving them an internal compass that will guide them through the darkest storms of life. Look at what just happened to this place. We come from different backgrounds, we work in different classes, and we are completely in different stages of our life. But the moment we name books, a silent thread connects us. We instantly understand something deep about others' internal values. So, where does that leave us? As I bring this reflection to a close, I want you to look forward. There is still vast mountains of literature I have yet to climb, countless authors I have yet to meet, and that is the ultimate beauty of lifelong passion that I have embraced. It is a horizon that expands the closer I walk toward it. By replacing today, when you go home, go to yourself, pick up a book, sit in a quiet corner, give it a chance, step across the threshold, embrace the transformative silence of a written word, just as I finally did. By replacing just 10 minutes of digital noise with physical text, you aren't just reading words, you're reclaiming your attention span. You're rebuilding your capacity for deep empathy. You're actively investing in the architecture of your own soul. Your library is still growing. Your shelves are infinite. And the most beautiful part, the best chapter hasn't been written yet. It is being written right now. The way you choose your words, the way you hear the stories, and the way you turn the next page into tomorrow. Thank you.